Hey guys, this is GamerCow. Welcome to another Pokemon Trading Card Game History video. This time we're going over the black sheep of the Gen 5, or is it the white sheep of the Gen 5 sets? This is Emergent Powers, easily the single worst set in the entire block. I got into the game at Boundaries Cross, so I was in it black and white on, and this was the one set that I remember like not wanting to open at all because I looked at it going, there's basically nothing here except one card, really. Oh, two cards really, but at the point of when I joined in, there were like two cards that were worth talking about, and I have the correct text for it here as well because Pepper was nice enough to save the right one for us. Just because of the way the scans are done here, these are PTCGO scans at the moment, and PTCGO does not have the old school Pokemon Catcher text for the regular print here, because the card did get errated at the end of Gen 5, and nowadays it is still in format, and it has the coin flip like we used to with Reversal. That's pretty much the most interesting thing to talk about in this set. There's less than 100 cards in here, even smaller than the last one, and yeah, genuinely, there's only about 4 cards that are worth talking about in here. We will go over them, of course, and we will, you know, do our best. There's a couple of extra cards that might be worth noting just in this exact point in history, because we don't have the next set yet to outclass a few of them. And there's a slow burn card in here as well that we will get to see when all the parts come together. But right now it's not very good. So yeah, we'll talk about the trainers first because they're arguably the most important bit here. Bianca is just worse than, I think it was Volkner's philosophy. Volkner's something anyway. The discard and then, or potential discard and then draw until you have 6. This is just a straight draw till 6. Honestly, could still be useful. We're in a much more item oriented format than we were in Gen 4, so you can realistically draw 4 to 6 cards with this. It's not unheard of. It's still probably outclassed though. We have Professor Oak's New Fury, we have Juniper, and we have Sage is probably the next one that you would use. So I guess if you don't want to use Sage but do need more than the 4.4 Juniper, you could use this. I don't think there's a deck that can do that right now. But maybe ZPS? I'm not sure. We'd have to see, because yeah, ZPS actually does get a big buff in this set and is worth playing here. So maybe you could do that. I remember this being like a 1 or a 2 of when Boundaries Crossed was out. You could play some of this, but even then it got outclassed pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't know. That's more than I can say for Charon though. This is the introduction of the rival characters pretty much always being a draw-free cards. And spoiler alert, it is miserable. I do remember seeing this as a 1 or 2 of in some decks at the black and white through like Boundaries Cross format that I joined in on. But again, even then it was completely outclassed, and right now there is no world where you're going to play this instead of like Bianca and stuff, right? You've got your 4 Pont, your 4 Juniper. You most likely play Bianca after that. I suppose in a Vileplume deck you could maybe get away with it, but really, you play Sage in there, so I don't think there's any hope for this thing. Especially when your extra supporter slots are probably just going to be Collector, because they need to be, so yeah, no hope. Item cards. Crushing Hammer makes its evergreen debut here. This has pretty much always been in standard format ever since this printing. It's energy removal 2. You flip for a coin toss if you get heads, discard an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Very annoying card. Has its stints. Sometimes it is actually really powerful, other times it just doesn't do anything. I think right now it's in the doesn't do much thing. You could Junk Arm with this and it is pretty strong. Sableye later on, like, yes, it gets another really good card coming up. That could potentially be an avenue for it. That is something that happens, but then you've also got so many acceleration tools right now. Like, this doesn't do much to Magnezone Emboar. This doesn't really do much to Reshifusion because they accelerate from discard anyway, and yeah, Yarn Mega attacks for 0. Not a lot of decks can really get hurt by this too much at the moment, so it's not super good, but you know, you could probably still play it. Great Ball, this is where you get the errata text coming in. This is now what used to be Master Ball. It's downgraded like 2 tiers basically. Kind of funny how that works out. But yeah, you look at the top 7, get any Pokemon that you find there, you can choose one of them to go into hand. We are in a more item-focused game. You could play this, it's not unreasonable. We do have like Junkam and stuff now as well. There's most of the time you're just going to play Pokemon Communication and it's going to be a lot better. But if you, maybe you're like a stage 1 deck or something and you have more spaces for extra ball search and stuff, you could potentially use this, I guess. Wouldn't count on it, so don't expect it to show up, but still. Max Potion, this is one of the 2 good trainers in this set. Heal all damage from one of your Pokemon, then discard all energy there. It's a single target Pokemon Center, and that does have some really good uses in a fair few decks. So Reuniclus is one of the obvious ones, right? If you move all the damage away from your energy wielding Pokemon with Reuniclus, then you can Max Potion the thing that you shift the damage to, and no energy gets discarded. Naturally, when HP totals get really high, this can help as well. So like Reshiram Zekrom, you could potentially heal a bunch off of those. Donphan tends to survive and not get one-shot, so that can also get picked up. And yeah, a lot of things can just attack for like 1 energy anyway, so just discard the energy and then put more on, right? Again, Donphan, pretty good example there. So it's a really cool card. I don't know if we're going to see it played at the moment, but there's definitely potential for it, so don't be too surprised if it does show up. And then the elephant in the room, Pokémon Catcher. So in their infinite wisdom, the Pokemon Company decided, you know what would be a really cool card to reprint? Gust of Wind. And you know what would be great? If we made the Gust of Wind as an uncommon trainer, 1 per box, on average. It was miserable. The set was overpriced as a result, more or less. Yeah, this is just Pokemon Reversal, but without the coin flip. As we said at the start of this, the coin flip got introduced later in Plasma Blast, moving into the 2014 season, and yeah, it's not fun. So this is going to, of course, massively change the game. We do have Junkam at the moment as well, so there's scope to maybe not play like the full 4 of this. I think 3 is usually what we're going to max out on for a lot of decks, but yeah, realistically, every deck is going to absolutely adore having access to the opponent's bench whenever they want, and your bench sitters are no longer safe, so this does really massively change the way the game is played. Even nowadays, you know, this is a supporter card in Boss's Orders, and it is still absurdly strong and played everywhere, and just being able to play it as an item as part of the turn is ridiculous. So yeah, it's going to come up a lot. What isn't going to come up a lot is our last trainer card, the item Recycle. This is actually a reprint from the Fossil set, all the way back at the start of the game, the 3rd set ever. Yeah, they did a couple of reprints in this one for reasons, I suppose. I guess Gen 5 kind of was a reboot of Gen 1 anyway, right? So maybe it makes sense there. Flip a coin, if heads, put a card from your discard pile on top of the deck. Cool, I guess. If you've got Magnezone, you can Magnetic Draw into that card, and it is any card, so that's kind of neat, but on a coin flip, yeah, it's not reliable, so you're probably not seeing this in any, like, good deck list. So, yeah, there is that. On to the Pokemon then, there are about 6 of them I want to highlight here. Thunderous is okay. Usually you're just going to play Zekrom instead, but Thunderous does have a couple of things going for it. Charge for any energy, 1 of any energy, search your deck for a lightning and put it onto Thunderous, so that's kind of neat. Disaster Vault does require you to discard an energy though, so, but, you know, 2 lightning and the colorless, 80 damage, relatively solid, doesn't damage itself, 110 HP is not too bad, and it's only got a 1 retreat cost, whereas Zekrom has a 2. So, it's not terrible. You could maybe use this with Shaman, you know, being able to charge, get an energy out of the deck, and then move it later on with Shaman to where you actually want it. It's fine. Unlikely to see a ton of play, but one of them could be an experimentation. The more important one is Tornadus. And this is important for a few reasons. Tornadus lets you play this with Zekrom to resist fighting, where the deck is normally quite weak to it. It's the same 110 HP, same 1 retreat, so that's not too bad. Energy Wheel lets you shift an energy from on your bench to the Tornadus. This can be any energy. And then Hurricane for any free colorless energy does 80. That's pretty respectable. DCE can power this up. Then you have to move a basic energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench. If you don't have a basic energy on this, you don't move anything. But even if you do, that's not necessarily bad, because you attach, you do your 80, and then you shift your basic energy to the bench where it can charge up, say, the Zekrom, and you still have DCE on this thing, assuming that's the way you go, and you can attack next turn anyway, and it's fine. You're also doing quite a lot of damage at that point on a basic Pokemon, and once again, it resists fighting. We've seen how useful that was with Yanmega, actually. Having the same amount of HP, the same resistance, it does very well into Donphan. Catcher might make that a little bit more complicated now, but there was always the chance for a reversal anyway, and Donphan decks played like 4 of them, so it is what it is. As far as the actual Pokemon goes, I think Pepper would want me to mention the Basculin here, just because it technically kills Reshiram and Emboar in one hit with Final Gambit. But he wants to play it with Electrode, and I just don't see it as a particularly good idea here. If you don't get this thing powered up in one hit, because Catcher now exists as well, it's going to get gusted and immediately eviscerated. There is no recourse for that. Also, if you flip 2 tails, Basculin eviscerates itself, so that's clearly not good either. 25% of the time, you're just going to die, and that is it. Yeah, there are no grass Pokemon that are worth noting here. The Leavanny does pretty much what Spiritomb did on a stage 2 for an energy. Please. All of the monkeys in this one get power if you have energy of their weakness type on them, but that means you can't play DCE for them, so obviously that's really bad. And yeah, everything else just does like no damage here. Pell tried to make the Virizion work back in the day because Giga Drain is neat, but we don't have Expert Belt anymore, and you know, persistent damage mods are just not a thing. So yeah, all of the Swords of Justice do have the Sacred Sword attack though, 100 damage for 2 of their type plus colorless, but you can't use it in consecutive turns. I mean, you can't DC it, so it's automatically sketch, but you know, could be worse, I guess. The only other water type I think that could be worth noting is Beartic, just because Beartic's sheer cold is kind of neat. Also 130 HP and a metal weakness is not too bad for water type to have right now. Means it's a bit difficult to come at this for weakness when you're hitting Reshiram super effective. Sheer cold prevents the opponent attacking next turn, but 50 damage for water double colorless, just ugh, it's nowhere near enough. And Icicle Crash is heckin' expensive for what it does. Does one hit KO the water type, the water weak Pokemon. But good luck getting 4 energy on this thing, right? For Alligator decks don't need the help that way. They're gonna do more damage with other stuff. So yeah, it's just not good, unfortunately. Swoobat has Fat Sound as an attack name. I told you Swoobats get good attack names in the previous video. This is one of the better ones, I think. It's not Jetwoofer, we'll get to that one, but it is still funny. Not a very good card though, because it's coin flippy, but still. Gothitelle is the slow burner from this set. It is not particularly good at the moment because there's no way you're getting free psychic energy on this thing easily at the very least. But if it's your active Pokemon, the opponent can't play items next turn. We don't really have hit and run cards right now, at least none that are anywhere near good enough to get this thing in. And I mean, we've got retreat aids, I suppose. There's Dodrio and there's Metagross that could potentially do stuff. Attacking with the Gothitelle is risky to say the least. For 3 colorless energy, Magnesis does 30 plus 20 for every psychic energy on this Pokemon. So, you know, 90 for free, whatever. This has been on Slowbro and has done absolutely nothing. But then Slowbro doesn't have item lock on the opponent's side, so maybe you could justify it. but no, I don't really know how on earth you charge it right now. Jirachi and Shaman combo, I suppose, but Jirachi's on coin flips. It's just not happening. Unfortunately, basically none of the fighting types are playable. The exception is the Terrakion down here could be playable because it hits, fighting type damage and is relatively powerful at that. You could use this as an anti-Zekrom. Boulder Crush is just a straight 40, which is not really enough though to like threaten much with the 2 energy, but hey, Sacred Sword is good though. Massive retreat cost on this thing though, and it gets immediately outclassed in the next set, so by another Terrakion no less. So if it's going to see play, it would be right now. Maybe Pepper's going to build like an Electro deck that has it in or something. I guess that's fine, but it still doesn't seem that impressive to me. None of the Dark types are any good. Technically the Mandibuzz Dark Pulse is neat. This was on Weavile at the start of Gen 4, it cost like 3 Dark Energy and it only did 10 plus, but we're a full generation ahead now. Yeah, it's not particularly good. Maybe with Dark Patch later on it could be okay, but by then you should be playing a much better Dark type than this, so that's not happening. I distinctly remember seeing the Watchog in lists at some point. It was a silly control-y style thing where you just like stop the opponent from ever drawing a good card. We do have a Slowking in format right now that looks at the top 3 from either player's deck as a Poké Power, so clearly right now this is not going to be that good, but in the future maybe there's something for it. I know Watchlock was it's a deck that's named on PTCG Legends and stuff anyway, so there's got to be something there to it, but I don't know. I think it's terrible, but noting it just because. For completeness, the Cobalion forces the opponent to switch for its first attack. That's fine, I suppose. 110 HP, only 2 retreat on this one, so that's okay, but it's Fire Weak, which is really, really bad in this format, so not going to be able to see any play. And then finally, if you want to play the Cinccino from the previous set, I believe this Minccino is the best one, because it lets you do 30 on the coin flipper heads for a single energy. Whereas the one from the last set, for having 60 HP as well, was 2 coin flips to do 10 per heads. I think this works out to be better damage overall, and so it's probably the best one. You could also maybe donk a Cleffer, and that'd be very funny. So, yeah. Plus, it's heckin' cute, but that's the same for all Minccino. And that's it. This set has, like, nothing else going for it, really. I mean, you just see the general quality of the stuff here. Ferrothorn, I think, never gets a good card into TCG, but it does certainly try here, I guess. Why does Power Whip still only do 10 damage for its sniping? It just doesn't make sense. But I'm not going to waste any more time on this set. This is easily the worst one of the era, and it's... yeah, there's almost nothing in here that is worth building around. I might try and make like ZPST at this point, because the Tornadus does make that deck significantly better, so maybe I'll try that. But otherwise, yeah, this is just terrible. So we'll just have to push for it. We are only spending 1 part here. We only spent 1 part in the previous battle thing as well, because it's just not worth spending more. We'll spend more in Noble Victories, because that set is actually good. And that's gonna be it. So hopefully, at least you know why this set was bad now. And if you found it interesting, we can hopefully do something with the battles at least and make it fun. Catcher's gonna change things up a lot. It's just I don't think it changes it for the better. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Till next time, though. Take care.